With the brand new, wonderfully weird world of Gumball, we finally get to revisit Elmore. Today we're ranking every amazing and wonderfully weird world of Gumball character from good to evil. With the intro out of the way, let's start with the category that has a title that'd fit well in the show. These characters are the good. This time around, after some deliberation, we've decided that Alan Keen deserves the gold medal of good. Before anyone points it out, yes, I remember the vision. In this episode, it's revealed that Alan has a bit of a concerning manifesto, wanting to seize power at Elmore Junior High to eventually eliminate all sadness in the world. His methods were pretty ruthless, but he still ultimately had good intentions to make the world a better, happier place. The reason we still give Alan the gold medal of good is the episode The Faith. Here, Alan finally loses his hope in the world, and as a result, it loses all of its color. It's also revealed that Alan single-handedly covers a lot of the altruistic work done in and around Elmore. As Gumball puts it, Alan does the work to help others, so people like him don't have to. With that considered, any points Alan would lose for his admittedly questionable manifesto are immediately earned back by his genuine goodwill. He's the only person in Elmore who exudes enough goodwill to single-handedly keep the world from losing all of its positive vibes. If that's not enough, just consider how nice he is to Gumball. In the episode The Saint, Gumball spends the entire episode trying to make Alan lose his temper, failing at every turn. At the end, Alan straight up yells at Gumball on purpose just so he'll be happy, showing that he isn't just insanely nice, he's modest too. I'm not saying that dictatorships are ever a good idea, but if we absolutely had to have one, Alan would be a great candidate. Taking the silver medal of good is Elmore Junior High's janitor and bus driver, Rocky Robinson. This mild-mannered Muppet is the son of the Wattersons' next-door neighbors, the Robinsons. With that in mind, it might be surprising that Rocky isn't a total jerk. On the contrary, Rocky is a pretty caring, friendly guy. He isn't perfect by any means, especially in regards to his lack of tactfulness when talking to women. He's not quite Professor Psychotic levels of delusional, but he's at least in the ballpark somewhere. Still, Rocky earns a lot of points by being one of the most modest, well-intentioned guys in the town. He's also super forgiving, considering the fact that he still loves his parents and even helps them out when the need arises, despite the fact that they openly consider him a disappointment. Rocky's one of those people who's not kind because it benefits him, but just because he wants to be. That's pretty admirable, and a ticket to a top 3 spot on our list. We're on our way to the next spot to talk about Darwin Watterson, Gumball's beloved sidekick. Guardian. Darwin is Gumball's ride-or-die partner in crime. Seriously, he uses Darwin as a vehicle sometimes. If Darwin has nothing else going for him, he has intense loyalty, to the point where his origin story is literally that he loved Gumball so much, he grew legs to reunite with him after accidentally getting flushed into the ocean. Darwin isn't just loyal to Gumball, though. He's kind to everyone around him, assuming the best in everybody until he has absolutely no hope of their goodwill. For every time this proves unsuccessful, like with Mrs. Robinson, there's another where he manages to make a somewhat decent connection, like in The Sucker, where he forms an unlikely friendship with Julius, one of the school bullies. In the new episode, The Burger, he helps Gumball and himself start eating healthier, and that good-natured character of his is in the spotlight for the whole season. Along with the rest of the kids, he goes to great lengths to help his family when they need it most, whether it's helping Gumball overcome his trauma on the gym climbing wall or helping Richard break his generational trauma. This all makes Darwin one of the most kind-hearted, forgiving characters in the ensemble cast, but even he isn't without his faults. He can be mischievous at times, and while this is usually just him going along with Gumball's schemes, there are times where he's the ringleader. One example is the episode The Roots, where he pretends that he's homesick for the ocean to manipulate his parents into buying him a fancy new fish tank. But, come on, who among us didn't try to psychologically manipulate their parents into buying them trinkets as a kid? It's nostalgic, really, or maybe I'm just a psychopath, or both, who knows. On a less ambiguous note, there was that time where he got freaked out by a safety video so badly that he turned into Elmore's big brother of sorts, basically becoming a dictator for the sake of protecting the people. Like with Alan's manifesto, good intentions, really bad execution. That sort of thing is usually as bad as it gets with Darwin, though, and by Elmore's chaotic standards, that's pretty good. Wow, there are 2 dictators in the top 5, huh? Next, we have his bro. Wait, not that bro. I mean his bro-tato, Idaho. Don't worry, Gumball, we'll get to you later. This little guy is one of the more unproblematic students at Elmore Junior High. He's just a little potato with stick figure limbs and a smiley face, and as simple as that character design is, it perfectly encapsulates the simple country bumpkin lifestyle Idaho embodies. He's more than willing to share his lifestyle with others, but he doesn't force it on them. While he is easily influenced, for better or for worse, that's normal for a kid his age. Like a freshly baked potato, Idaho is warm and reliable. Just don't eat potatoes around him. Why? Did you really just ask that? Following Idaho, we have another sentient piece of food, Anton. Most of what we said about Idaho can apply to Anton too. He's a friendly, laid-back guy who keeps to himself. He also gets mutilated constantly, which leads to his parents remaking him as needed. That doesn't have much to do with his morality. What does, however, is his willingness to still be friends with Gumball and Darwin after they clone him behind his back. That shows some pretty good mercy on his part, and being able to forgive people for doing something that messed up is pretty admirable. If you think things are getting weird, you haven't met Sussy yet. If there's any character whose design encapsulates just how bizarre star this series is, it's Sussy. Her skinny puppet limbs, her upside down chin face, those iconic googly eyes. Sussy, in terms of both personality and design, is all about self-acceptance, no matter how weird it is. Sussy wears her heart on her little puppet sleeves, and it's a pretty good one. She likes just about everything and everyone, which means that I'm fairly certain she isn't even able to do anything bad. Up next, we have a quick mention of Molly. Known primarily for her long, boring, intricately detailed stories, Molly is a pretty nice student who struggles to make friends, as much as she tries to. Aside from her lack of interesting traits, Molly is a nice person and definitely the more pleasant of Elmore's dinosaurs. She also gets a surprising amount of spotlight in the episode The Boring, where it's revealed that she can literally stop time with her stories, a power that she uses to help Gumball and Darwin avoid a fight with Tina. She also tries to explain why Tina was fighting them in the first place, being that they carelessly ruined her traditional drawing of dinosaur extinction. Despite Tina's aggression, Molly respected the Dino Code and stood up for her, which earned her a lot of respect in our book. Gumball's shape-shifting girlfriend Penny is next. Nowhere near the usual stereotype for cheerleaders or crushes in cartoons, Penny isn't the least bit superficial. From her debut, she's consistently nice to the people around her, including Gumball, despite his blatantly obvious crush on her. Often, Gumball's feelings cause him to act in ridiculous ways around her, but she always seems to give him chance after chance, which shows that she's way more understanding than she needs to be. This dude literally poisoned her with a cupcake she was allergic to, and she still didn't abandon all hope for him. That's some serious dedication. Really, the worst we could say about Penny is that she goes on a rampage once she's finally able to come out of her shell, but that's really her father's fault for encouraging her to keep her true self hidden. What isn't her father's fault, however, are her actions in The Amadane, the newest episode at the time of writing this script. This one sees Penny essentially lure Gumball into going through an uncomfortable family ritual with her. We'll get one thing clear, we aren't defending Gumball being too much of a coward to help his girlfriend through a tough time, but she could have at least prepared him for this ahead of time. Instead, she just kind of deceives and bullies him throughout the night when he tries to cave to her dad's demands. It's not something that calls all her morals into question, because we can see why she was upset, but there were certainly better ways to go about it. We aren't gonna dock a 12-year-old too many points for not having perfect emotional intelligence, though it isn't something worth placing her lower for. Also, just something to mention. Landing high, once again, Richard Watterson is up next. If there were a medal for earning the most Sinner medals, Richard would be getting that medal for sure. I'd say it might be a surprise because there's frankly a case for the Watterson family's dad to get a whopping 3 Sinner medals. Seriously, I tried not to, but there's no way I can avoid giving any of these to Richard. He earns the Gluttony Sinner medal for his love of food, which even played into his workout regimen somehow, the Sloth Sinner medal for the fact that if he were to get a job, the fabric of the universe would literally unravel, and the Darwin Sinner medal because, come on guys, he tried to prank his kids by dropping a bucket of concrete on them, then showed genuine shock at the fact that it was dry. All of that is to say that Richard is a very flawed man, but if you look past all that, you have a man who actually makes for a pretty decent house husband. Richard was not raised by an ideal pair of parents, to say the least. His father abandoned him at a young age, and his mother babied him to the point where he became completely unable to function on his own. We find out in the episode The Cheerleader that she also verbally degraded him to the point where he doubted his ability to follow his dreams, which turned out to be totally false since Richard absolutely killed it in those tryouts. Despite this, Richard has shown time and time again that he'll do anything to protect his family, especially his kids. Whether he needs to break them out of a giant cargo crate, rescue them from a junkyard storm in the pouring rain, or even just stand up to a store's manager to get them the refund they rightfully deserve, Richard always puts his all into caring for his children. He even let his own newly sentient gut take over his life because he thought Anais liked him more. That's some serious selflessness. Like Darwin, he's also extremely forgiving and gentle, shown by the fact that his kids had to push him to stop getting absolutely bullied by Harold. In the end, there is no length Richard won't go to in order to help his family, whether it's cheering up Nicole when she's upset or protecting the kids when they're in trouble. He might be lazy, ignorant, and a downright danger to most of the town, but Richard has a big heart, which makes up for an even bigger stomach and a very, very, very small brain. Next up, a quick mention of Grandpa Louis Watterson is up next. You might know him as the guy who looks like what would happen if you threw an abstract mouse and a tripod camera in a blender, but in later seasons, Louis ends up marrying Granny Jojo and becomes the adoptive father of Richard and grandfather to his kids. He exhibits a pretty good relationship with the whole family, showing that he's a pretty cooperative and nice guy, especially given how rude Richard was to him on their first meeting. Next, we have Banana Joe, the class clown of Elmore Junior High. Rule 1 of interacting with Banana Joe: do not chew his pen. Rule 2, there are no rules. Sure, Banana Joe isn't the type of guy you'd go to if you want a sympathetic ear or some profound advice, but if you need a guy whose goal in like 90% of his interactions is to make you smile, he's your guy. Still, his jokes can be a little insensitive here and there. Making people laugh is great, but he might stand to learn that there's a time and a place for jokes and pranks. And after him, we have a dual entry for his parents, Banana Bob and Banana Barbara. Really, there's not too much to say about these two. More so than perhaps any other character, they make it clear that the banana didn't fall far from the bunch. These two love each other and their son, and aside from that, what more needs to be said? It's not like one of them is a prophet or anything, right? Next up, we have the school counselor, Mr. Small. His name may be small, but his impact is far from it. Whenever Mr. Small comes into the picture, you can be sure that some well-meaning loving and usually unhelpful advice or rituals will follow. While Mr. Small does his best to be an altruist, he sometimes does so to his own detriment, and there are times when he can be quite selfish. His worst appearance was probably in the episode The Sock, where after Gumball and Darwin cause various troubles throughout the school, he encourages them to be silent no matter what. I don't think I needed to spell this out, but that is one of the absolute worst things you could tell children as a school counselor. He also tries to get them hooked on astrology in the reboot, but that's mainly because the crystal literally brainwashed him, so we can't take a lot of points away for that. Nonetheless, he has a passion for helping people, and he's at least trying to be selfless most of the time. Sometimes he can be heroic, like when he helped Gumball and Darwin save Molly from the Void, which earns him some points for courage and general heroism. Next, we have the friendly immigrant from Jukeboxenberg, Juke. He's one of the quieter kids in Elmore, or at least one of the more unintelligible ones. In the boombox, it's revealed that he's only able to speak English when a switch on the back of his head is activated, which he can't reach by himself. Did this kid never think of trying to use a back scratcher? Local hypochondriac Terry is next. Terry, like Molly, is a pretty flat character, but in a more literal sense. Of course, I'm obviously referring to the fact that she's mostly characterized by her intense fear of germs, resulting in her constantly cleaning or critiquing everything and everyone around her. Still, you can't fault her for being concerned for both her well-being and that of others, even if it is a little overbearing sometimes. Next up is Carmen. During her time at Franklin Junior High, she was a short-tempered delinquent who engaged in a lot of problematic behavior. Perhaps the worst of all was making fun of her teacher, Mr. Blurry McBlurryface, or whatever his name was. Thankfully, when she was expelled and transferred to Elmore, Carmen worked hard to turn her life around, and although she can be smug about it, she does genuinely care about helping others improve their lives. Okay, we've got some serious explaining to do for this next one, but Larry lands a lot lower than he did last time. He does have a positive impact on the series as a whole. Mind you, when it comes to Larry, the term essential worker is more accurate than ever. He's a jack of all trades in Elmore, with so many jobs that the city falls into an apocalyptic state without him. Unfortunately, he has one job in the new season that loses him a lot of points with us. As assistant to Mr. Bilderberger, the owner of a monopolized food industry in Elmore, he helps him do a lot of heinous things. Just following orders doesn't justify pouring acidic sports drinks on children who are already digging through a dumpster for food, nor does it justify burning down the garden they've been working on for months. Yeah, I know, he's still just doing his job, but I mean, do one of your other 500 jobs. Still, he did silently give Gumball and Darwin the idea to eat his boss, which would usually land him way lower, but given how his boss was a total sociopath and the kids are basically starving, we're gonna give him some lenience near the bottom of our good category. Leonard Daniels takes one of the lower spots in our good category, but I'm sure he doesn't mind. In fact, he doesn't seem to mind much of anything, whether it's being commissioned to serve as a local rich guy, being abused with various forms of slapstick, or even offering to cut Gumball's brakes. Yeah, he's a weird guy, but he means well. We have to take some points away for his occasional stalker-ish tendencies, but like he'd say, it's only weird if you make it weird. In the reboot, he even helps Gumball track Darwin down in their Panda Party Town game, which only amplifies his earlier stalker traits. If that smug wiener dog face didn't give it away, last up in the good category is the youngest member of the Watterson family, Anais. It might be a bit shocking that she landed so low on our list, especially compared to where she was the first time we ranked this series' cast on morality. Well, let's start with her good traits. Despite all of her smugness, Anais is usually a caring person. She uses her unusually high intelligence to support her family however she can, and genuinely does enjoy spending time with them. She can come on a little strong, okay, a lot strong with new friends, but she pretty much always means well. Certainly not a character who's out to hurt anyone. On the contrary, she's actually pretty altruistic. She helps the rest of the family with whatever problems they're going through and has contingency plans for the next several decades of potential disasters her family could get into. In the episode The Traffic, she's also shown to be grateful for her family even trying to take her to Daisyland, thinking before this point that they never had time for her. It puts into perspective that even though she's a genius, Anais is still just a kid who wants love from her family, but there are a few episodes that land her pretty low regardless. The episode The Rival revealed that during her time as an infant, Anais literally attempted to murder her brothers, seemingly just for the sheer fun of it. We wouldn't see this as a true detriment to her morals given that she was a literal baby, were it not for the fact that she's characterized by being ridiculously mature and intelligent for her age. Even at 4, she still has a mischievous streak. The episode The Remote sees her psychologically manipulate the whole family into staying at each other's throats for possession of the TV remote to distract them from the fact that she herself had it and was waiting for the perfect opportunity to use it. Anais isn't evil by any means, but she is ruthless, and given what she's done before, as a result, we can't place her any higher. But now it's time to move into the gray area, where the characters get a little more psychologically ambiguous. Kicking off the gray area is the alligator wrestler himself. Clayton. One of the many classmates of Gumball and Darwin we'll be discussing today, Clayton is a little red shape-shifting ball of clay. His propensity for lying, and more concerningly, identity theft, is a rough spot on his record. His tendency to stretch the truth, or his own body, into something more interesting makes it hard for him to make friends. Still, Clayton is a good guy at the end of the day. While he has his flaws, he does actively show signs of working on them. Plus, in the episode The Anybody, he beats up an alligator to rescue Gumball, which obviously earns him a lot of points. Speaking of identity theft, wow, what a transition for a Gumball script. Next we have Bobbert. This little robot is one of Gumball and Darwin's closest friend, even though he admittedly didn't have the best first impression. In his first major appearance, the robot, he steals Gumball's identity with an absolute ingenious disguise and ultimately tries to straight up murder him. But after that, he gets reset by Gumball, so I guess that's all in the past, right? That's the thing with Bobbert. He is a robot, and while he's capable of doing evil, he's equally capable of doing good, or at least neutral. But he is one of Gumball and Darwin's best friends, and one of our favorite characters, so we cannot compute placing him lower. Last chance to look at me, Hector. Then again, I doubt you can see me from that high up anyway. Hector is an interesting character. I wouldn't call him a gentle giant. He's more like a lobotomized giant. Okay, maybe that's too extreme as well. My point is that as long as Hector isn't exposed to any excessive excitement, he's a pretty chill guy. It's just that if he experiences any strong emotions, he inevitably goes on a rampage that endangers the entire town. You know, just regular teenage angst issues and all that. Up next we have Sarah, one of Gumball and Darwin's closest friends and an obsessive stalker. Cartoon Network definitely has a type, huh? Stalker stuff aside, Sarah isn't particularly malicious. She does genuinely care about Gumball and Darwin and wants to be friends with them. If it weren't for her creepy behaviors, from recording them while they sleep to forcing Elmore's citizens into ships, Death Note style, she'd probably end up pretty high on our list, but sadly, stalking is frowned upon by most of us here in the real world, even if in Elmore it's more like a casual inconvenience. Next up is Claire Cooper. This moody kid makes her first major appearance in The Others, where she basically serves as a parody of every pessimistic coming-of-age movie out there. While in a moral sense, Claire is pretty decent, given how she maintains decent, healthy friendships and isn't out to harm anyone, she also loses some points for just how darn negative she is. Like, it's okay to be sad, Claire, but like you said, it's not always a bad chew. Hot Dog Guy, bane of socially anxious people everywhere, is next. When this guy comes into the picture, you know he's got one goal and one goal only in mind: to make Gumball's social life as awkward as possible, albeit unintentionally. Here's a fun game. Show someone who's never seen an episode of Gumball this scene before anything else. Tell us how it went. But for now, just know that while Hot Dog Guy is one of the funniest gag characters, he's also pretty much completely average in every way except his sunglasses. Those sunglasses are pretty cool. Next, we have the embodiment of lawfulness in Elmore, the Donut Sheriff. I don't know what's funnier, the idea that this guy's name could literally be Donut Sheriff, or the idea that the creators gave Molly a name, but not this guy. In any case, this sheriff works to uphold the law in Elmore, whether it means teaching kids the importance of abiding by the law or helping lock up dangerous gas station robbers. He isn't the most outwardly friendly guy, nor is he particularly great at his job, but this pastry-esque policeman is a decent enough guy who's playing an important role in Elmore. While his role in the episode The Teacher is pretty minor, we have to give him respect for just how determined he was to rescue Gumball from his kidnapper. And even if he got the wrong guy, that guy was still a serious criminal. But then there's the episode where he mistakenly arrests the Watterson clan and only frees them because he wants to read about it in Richard's Rich Pickings newsletter. We don't blame him for wanting some fine literature though. The boys in blue need entertainment too. Honestly, we're seeing more good than bad this time around, but I could have sworn we put him higher last time. Did something else happen? Oh, he has donuts in the police snack room. The sentient donut eats donuts and encourages others to eat them. With such a morbid twist in that last entry, what better time than now to talk about Carrie? Carrie is similar to Bobbert in a moral sense, that is. She didn't have a good start in the series, possessing a Gumball so she could enjoy the mortal sensation of eating again, but this moderate slip up aside, Carrie is pretty chill. She has a healthy relationship with Darwin, is friendly with most of the other kids at school, and even helped Gumball make a love potion when she thought Darwin was in love with Terry, placing Darwin's happiness over her own feelings. Then again, as selfless as that was, I really don't know if we should give her points for helping brainwash someone. And as a matter of fact, she still has some pretty creepy tendencies. In the episode The Letter, when she mistakenly thinks that Darwin is trying to cheat on her, she unleashes the forces of the underworld on Elmore out of sheer rage. Well, that's not good by any means. It's worth noting that not only is Carrie a child, but she lives in constant misery due to not being able to feel love or physical sensations like eating. That's a valid reason to crash out, just maybe not as hard as she did. Alright, anime fans. Levi Ackerman, Goku, All Might, Isaac Netero, what do all of these characters have in common? That's right, Nicole Watterson would absolutely demolish them. While she's a kind person at heart, Nicole earns the Rat Sinner Medal out of sheer respect. Admittedly, raising 3 kids and 1 husband on a ridiculously low salary can't be easy, but Nicole still tends to parent with fear more often than not. Heck, even in the very first episode, she returns Gumball's smack talk by punching a hole in the wall. She can also be overbearing and critical of her family, mainly in the episode The Fridge, where she chronicles all of their achievements throughout the week on a chart. Overall though, Nicole still comes across as a pretty good mother and wife. She sticks by her family no matter what, works incredibly hard to provide for them, and like Richard, she'll do anything to keep them safe from harm, even if that means melting a man's soul with her mind to get him to clean up her house. Her determination to get Anais to Daisyland before it's shut down for good only makes her a more respectable mother in our eyes. She's a ride or die for her family, but her anger issues still have to lose her a few points on the sheer principle that if she isn't on the verge of murdering her own family, she's on the verge of murdering someone else. Following Nicole is another mother, Mrs. Jotunheim. As far as witches go, Hector's mom is pretty chill. Sure, she might trick kids into doing chores for her, but she makes up for that by being a pretty good, albeit overprotective, mother to Hector. It can't be easy looking after a literal giant like Hector, much less considering that his mother is only 28, meaning that if Hector is Gumball's age, she's either a teen mom or she adopted Hector. With all that considered, she earns even more credit from us than she already had. Now, without further ado, it's time to talk about the main man himself, Gumball Watterson. As a morally ambiguous cat with a head that's almost as big as his ego, Gumball can play just about any role the episode needs him to. At times, he can be a self-absorbed, hypocritical jerk, like in The Potato, where he convinces his family to adopt Idaho's simple lifestyle, only to go behind all their backs at night. The guy is also guilty of some seriously horrific crimes. Like, seriously, it sounds like a joke, but look no further than the episode The Saint, where Gumball spends the entire episode tormenting Alan just to prove he isn't perfect. Gumball's insensitive, arrogant, and a legitimate danger to society, so why isn't he any lower? I'm really trying here, actually. I guess if nothing else, he usually shows some sense of goodwill at the end of the day. Take the episode The Faith, for instance. When Alan loses his hope for the world, Gumball, who absolutely hates him, puts that to the side for the sake of cheering him up. Even after Alan's hope is restored, he admits they can at least kinda be friends. And in the episode The Inquisition, he helps restore all the students at Elmore Junior High to their cartoony selves. Really, Gumball has a lot of altruistic moments. Even in the newest season, he helps his friends, family, and even principal through difficult times for basically no reason other than he feels like it. Gumball at least occasionally comes across as a decent person, which saves him from a lower spot on our list. But if this kid weren't 12, he would be in jail for a long time. According to a lawyer in the episode The Wrinkle, he'd be in jail for 43 life sentences specifically. That poor milk carton dude. There are plenty of other crimes committed in season 7 too, like accidentally drugging the town with cologne in the entrance, or messing up the house's basement because he wanted to frame himself and Darwin for a crime so they'd be forced to spend eternity together in solitary confinement. Following Gumball, Leslie is up next. As Elmore Junior High's resident fashionista and borderline narcissist, Leslie tends to cling to the spotlight however he can. He's pretty friendly with most of the people around him, even if he does have a bit of a puffed up view of himself. At his worst, he's kind of a jerk. At his best, he's perfectly decent, which at this point on our list is quite the achievement. We also have to take the Pride Center medal from Tobias and give it to Leslie. In the episode The Astrological, Mr. Small's crystal basically possesses the students into falling in weirdly specific romantic relationships with each other, one of which happens to be Leslie x Leslie. And you know what? I ship it. Next we have a new character who too can be a pretty swell guy, Johnny Toucan. Nicole's mother has apparently decided she prefers younger guys, particularly guys even younger than her daughter, who happen to be absolutely jacked fitness instructors. Johnny seems at least reasonably nice for the most part, but he still loses points for being an affair partner and for willingly antagonizing the elderly husband of his lover. Even if he's still somehow far more pleasant than either of them, that's not a good look. The Wattersons' next-door neighbor, Mr. Gaylord Robinson, is next. On the grouchy neighbor scale, Mr. Robinson is somewhere between Squidward from SpongeBob and Mr. Big Head from Rocko's Modern Life. On one hand, the guy's a jerk. Let's not beat around the bush. While he does love his wife, he's not above insulting her, or his son, for that matter. In general, Mr. Robinson is just an unpleasant guy, and he doesn't really have that many good traits that make up for his unsympathetic ones. But he does have some, like in the episode The Heart. When Gumball and Darwin stop talking to Mr. Robinson after hearing him trash talk them behind their backs, they abandon the friendship, prompting Mr. Robinson to actually try and regain their friendship. Mr. Robinson got arrested multiple times in pursuit of connecting with his underage neighbors. The same can be said for The Pool, where Mr. Robinson reveals that his extravagant pool is there as an attempt to reconnect with his estranged son, Rocky. It's here that we find out that Mr. Robinson's biggest regret is not investing in cryptocurrency, but his second biggest is not spending more time with his son, even though he was ironically the reason for him working as hard as he did. Up next is local elder Marvin Finkelheimer. Marvin is a pretty harmless guy. Really, he fits the average grumpy old man stereotype to a T. The worst we could attribute to him is his stubbornness, mostly seen in The Watch, where he makes Gumball and Darwin jump through hoops to get their father's watch back. Still, aside from that, he doesn't seem to have any outright terrible flaws, unless you count IRL catfishing. Check please. Seeing a character as young as Billy Parham so low on the list might be a surprise, but hear me out. While his upbringing is much to blame for his sense of entitlement, his mother is Felicity after all, Billy still handled his unreciprocated feelings towards Anais in the worst possible way, by bullying her relentlessly in return for her rejecting him. Way to uphold the negative stereotype Fireman Pete fans have, Billy. From one rich kid to another, next up is Masami. We discussed this hopelessly romantic cloud a little bit in our Gumball villains ranking, but for those who missed it, Masami is quite entitled, particularly when it comes to relationships. Let's not target that she emotionally manipulated Darwin into kissing her when he was clearly uncomfortable with the idea, nor that she turned into a literal hurricane when Alan rejected her in favor of Carmen. She isn't ranked any lower on the sole basis that she's just a kid and has been shown to just want to be treated as such. And in the episode The Gourmet, we find out that she really doesn't share her mother's more materialistic traits. While she's busy testing Gumball to see if he's worthy of trying their gourmet mac and cheese, Masami is just playing on her phone. And after all the chaos blows over, she even offers to buy her mom some chicken nuggets. Alright, how about we tackle some of Elmore Junior High's teachers, like Mr. Corney. Unlike Clayton, Mr. Corney doesn't really seem to learn from his habit of lying to appear more interesting. Heck, if anything, he does it in a much more dangerous capacity, lying about being a cage fighter solely so he can kiss the nurse. He may have lost that fight brutally too, but he won the Lust Center Medal. That's something, right? Aside from lying occasionally though, Mr. Corney seems like a pretty regular guy. And what do you mean he did 8 years of hard labor in prison? What did he do? Chunking the deuce onto the next spot is Tobias Wilson. Tobias is one of those interesting jock characters who doesn't quite warrant being called a bully, but he's still nowhere near a saint. At the heart of his character is his desire to be accepted by his peers, which sometimes manifests in him showing an amount of confidence that only a main character could usually possess. Heck, in one episode he straight up loses his temper on Gumball and Darwin over the fact that he isn't the main character. Speaking of Tobias' sense of entitlement, he can also be pretty obsessive when he wants something, or someone. When he decides he wants to be Gumball's best friend, he's willing to go on a Scott Pilgrim-style rampage to beat Gumball's other best friends so he can be the only one remaining. Even if this was all in his head, that's still pretty messed up, but in his defense, Tobias is just a kid, and it's not like he's ever out to actively hurt anyone, but since he's mostly lacking positive traits, he still lands pretty low. In the new season, his creepy side is amped up to 11. In the astrology episode, he repeatedly tries to steal Penny from Gumball, and in the episode The Entrance, he tries to invite the guys and their girlfriends to his house party, presumably just to try and steal their girls. We at least somewhat feel for him since he does just want companionship, relatable, and he's still young enough to grow into a better person. He's not quite pencil-thin mustache creepy yet, but he is starting to lean in that direction. Another faculty member, Coach Russo, is up next. The mother of Jamie, she takes on a coaching gig at Elmore Junior High to keep her daughter's brutal bullying in check. Coach tends to endanger her students with her intense training, which is most prominent in The Recipe, where she straight up watches one of her students disintegrate in the water for the sake of a swim safety lesson, seeming completely unbothered by it. It's also revealed in the new season that she had the gym declared an independent state, specifically so she couldn't be sued over any injuries the kids might suffer there. Still, that incident aside, she is keeping Jamie from bullying other kids at school, and she does seem to be determined to teach the kids skills that will help them in the future. Earning a much more favorable position than last time is Penny's father, Patrick Fitzgerald. He landed pretty low last time, and for good reason. This guy had Penny hide her true self for years rather than helping her control it, and while that was mainly to protect her, he had no problem telling her point blank that she was a freak, making him ironically the biggest danger to his daughter's self-esteem. While he does make efforts to improve himself, which keeps him from falling any lower, he's definitely one of Elmore's more unsavory parents. Thankfully, by the episode The Amadean, he's at least somewhat come around to accepting his daughter for who she is. Sure, he still insists on her wearing a shell around her grandmother to respect tradition, but in the end, he tells her point blank that she doesn't need her shell, and that the family loves and accepts her just how she is. He's even come around in terms of his opinion on Gumball, welcoming him into the family and even singing karaoke with him at the end of the episode. He's nowhere near the absolute Giga Chad that is Richard Watterson, but Patrick isn't a bad guy or even a bad dad anymore, and we have to give him respect for that growth. The head of the school, Principal Brown, is almost at the tail end of our gray area. Nigel here might be a devoted partner to Miss Simeon, but that doesn't make him less problematic as a person in general. Aside from his general incompetence and insensitivity, Principal Brown is a full-on fraud, as revealed in the fittingly titled episode, The Fraud. To cover this up, he's willing to go as far as attempting to blow up the entire school, showing a pretty twisted side to his character. We also find out about his past in the episode The Butts, in which he overcomes the trauma he received over being bullied for his butt being too bald? What? Anyway, after Gumball helps him overcome this trauma, Principal Brown agrees to read his poem about self-acceptance to the school, and proceeds to... Sorry, am I reading this right? Proceeds to twerk in front of an audience of children? Anyway, the only thing keeping him from falling into the bad section is the fact that he does actually care about his students to some degree, often going out of his way to help teach them valuable lessons or check up on them when he suspects something isn't right at home. Granny JoJo marks the very end of the gray area. As mentioned briefly before, Granny JoJo's worst quality is her awful parenting of Richard. Her overprotectiveness led to Richard becoming the slothful, incompetent man he is today, and as we see in The Authority, if she had her way, the whole Watterson family would be that way. She actively kept her son in a constant state of man-childhood, and if that weren't bad enough, she exhibits a similar sense of control over her husband Louis, refusing to even let him make friends aside from her. For all her faults, she does genuinely love her family, and to an extent her actions are an attempt to keep them safe. It couldn't have been easy to raise Richard by herself either, so while I won't excuse her bad deeds, especially in regards to the generational trauma she gave him to heal from, I will give her some understanding, keeping her just outside of our final category. It's finally time to talk about Elmore's most unsympathetic faces. These are the bad to evil. Starting off this category is Ocho. On the surface, Ocho might seem like he's being placed harshly. I mean, sure, he's got anger issues, but so do Nicole and Mr. Robinson. How come they got in the gray area, but Ocho didn't? Well, here's the thing. While Ocho is a kid and has shown some self-awareness of how strong he tends to come on, he's also one of the most impulsive and violent characters in the whole show. This kid is so easy to tick off, even his own alarm clocks fear him. The episode The Uncle also reveals that he's willing to literally traumatize his friends before he lets them into his inner circle. And that's not to mention the fact that he coldly admits to taking people's pets hostage. Still, despite all this, Ocho isn't outright evil. He's just an unstable kid who desperately needs therapy. Next we have Elmore's most prominent nerds, Colin and Felix. This pair of literal eggheads is probably known best for their role as the heads of the Reject Club, to which they invite any kid who's rejected from all other clubs. Unlike Bobbert and even Ocho, who were also in the club, these two never really got much of a sympathetic story, tending to insult everyone around them for no reason but a smug sense of superiority. Ori helps her get some much needed freedom from her codependent family, giving Nicole a sense of escape. Unfortunately, Ori turns out to be a bit more yandere than Nicole bargained for. When Nicole has the audacity to choose spending time with her family over a computer, Ori essentially locks the family in a Cybertruck and tries to send them to the bottom of the Elmore River. Also, she can have Nicole to herself. This time around, we think she deserves the Envy Sinner medal even more than Gumball. She's saved from a lower spot due to her at least apologizing to Nicole, gifting her a pack of batteries, and going to find a family of her own. That's great and all, but she still tried to kill 3 children and 1 Richard with almost no remorse, so it doesn't quite even things out. On a similar note, next we have a character who's been around since the beginning, the Hobo. Not exactly the most memorable character in Gumball history, which is why he wasn't in our previous Good to Evils on the series. Even so, he does have a major role in the episode The App, where he helps Gumball and Darwin stop an evil social media app from brainwashing all the children of Elmore. He'd get a lot of credit for that if it weren't for the fact that he made the app and then proceeded to make another app that was even more addictive. If that's not bad enough, it's revealed that he isn't even some poor homeless dude and only lost his wealth due to his own greed. I guess that lottery money he won in the first season got put to good use for a while. Jumping into the next spot is Tina Rex. There's definitely some sympathy to be had for Tina, given how scared she is of her home at the junkyard and how, due to her intimidating size and temper, she has a hard time making friends. Still, sympathy can only get you such a long way when you regularly assault your classmates on a regular basis over the slightest incidents. Though we don't blame her too much for her actions in The Boring, where she got reasonably ticked off over Gumball and Darwin ruining her memorial drawing of the now extinct dinosaurs. Granted, it might have been smarter to draw it somewhere other than the ground, like, what's she gonna do if it rains? Fight the clouds? Oh, and let's not forget that Tina tried to keep Anais's stuffed animal from her. Scared or not, that's pretty low down even for a bully. Still, I'd argue she isn't quite as dangerous as Julius, aka Bomb Kid. Julius is a more calculated and organized bully than Tina, which, let's be honest, isn't that much of a feat. His crew go beyond mere bully territory into being full-on delinquents, but he isn't all bad. In the episode The Sucker, he actually manages to work together with Darwin, and the two form an unlikely friendship. Hopefully the whole accidentally blowing his parents up thing doesn't take away from that. The spokesperson for disgruntled background characters everywhere, Rob, is up next. After being forgotten by the people of Elmore and even left behind in the void, Rob ultimately found a purpose as the villain of Elmore, regularly threatening to destroy the town and its citizens. It's one thing to want a purpose in life, which is absolutely fine, but Ross takes it to another level, willing to genuinely endanger the lives of countless innocent people just to keep himself from being forgotten. Perhaps his most memorable scheme was in the 2-part episode The Rerun, where he uses a magic remote to ruin the lives of Gumball and all of his loved ones, cementing himself as a true blue-gray villain. That said, it's possible that Ron isn't all bad. In The Inquisition, he posed as the school's superintendent in an effort to transform the students into more normal characters to save them from some kind of disaster. 5 years later, we still have no idea what that disaster is, but with any luck, we'll be seeing the return of Raj and all his buddies anytime now. Seeing his way to our next spot is William. While he's ranked near the other bullies at Elmore Junior High, I'm not sure if that term quite fits William. On one wing, William is a tough character not to feel sorry for, truly the embodiment of I have no mouth, yet I must scream. William struggles to make friends, eat, or do just about anything that can't be done via telekinesis. On the other wing, he's also the kind of guy who will literally go on a school-wide rampage to try and kill you if you cross him. And I'm sure his habits of stealing from his classmates won't help him make friends either. For the worst of Elmore Junior High's main bullies, we have Jamie. Yeah, somehow despite there being a T-Rex and a sentient explosive, Jamie is still the most concerning bully at the school by far. Similarly to Julius, Jamie is characterized as little more than a brute, and while she isn't overly malicious, she tends to hurt people constantly, seeing very little issue with that. She's mutilated pretty much every side character in the show on at least one occasion, and while it's played for laughs, feeding one of your classmates to its natural predator is a pretty villainous thing to do. She isn't pure evil, of course. Like Julius, she forms an unlikely friendship with one of the Watterson kids, but this is still one of Elmore's less savory faces, and one you'd do well to avoid on the streets. Surprisingly landing higher than she did last time is none other than Miss Simeon. The mean teacher archetype is nothing new to cartoons, nor was it new when Gumball made its debut, but whereas most of those teachers were just miserable people in general, Miss Simeon isn't just a bitter old lady who hates children. No, she's a bitter old lady who hates children and likes to watch them suffer. Being a sadist is one thing, and being someone who hates everything and everyone around them is another. When you combine the two, you get such a particular brand of evil that it's hard to imagine a worse person to put in charge of middle schoolers. Oh, and she isn't any nicer to younger kids either. When Nicole took her first steps, Miss Simeon, who I guess was running her daycare, immediately insulted her for them. Worst of all for Miss Simeon is that we can't even give her credit for her romance with Principal Brown. In the Inquisition, she dumped him to try and get with Superintendent Evil, presumably attracted to his affinity for psychologically abusing children, I guess. Which is why we were really surprised to see her role in the episode The Teacher. In this episode, Miss Simeon is revealed to actually care about her students. Wow. Willing to get involved with dangerous crime just to get her hands on laptops for them. This doesn't come anywhere near making up for the years of abuse she's dumped on her students, but it at least shows that somewhere deep beneath all that cruelty is a teacher who sorta cares. Next we have Nicole's parents, Daniel and Mary Sainicourt. They are the reason Nicole has the overachieving, short-tempered personality we know and love. These parents famously scolded their daughter for getting an F in gender. I'll let you guys figure out why that's ridiculous. They left Nicole with a constant sense that she wasn't doing enough, as if she had to earn their love and affection, which carried into her adult life and left her with some unresolved trauma. From not attending Nicole's wedding to refusing to apologize until Gumball sang an emotionally manipulative song to them, these two are some of Elmore's worst parents, only saved from a lower spot because they aren't outright criminals, at least not to our knowledge. Of course, what Mary does in the reboot is basically criminal, leaving her husband of decades for her young fitness instructor out of nowhere. To make matters worse, said fitness instructor was a freshman when Nicole was a senior, meaning this woman is dating a man who's younger than her daughter. When it comes to villains, the evil turtle needs no introduction. To her credit, she isn't actually that evil, she just wants to find a safe place to lay her eggs so she can protect her babies. She's still incredibly violent and impulsive, though, with an internal monologue that seems to tell her to do nothing but bite people and protect her eggs. Still, she did show some gratitude towards Gumball when the Wattersons helped release her and her babies into the wild, so as long as they stay far away, I guess we won't have a reason to place her any lower. Elmore's most pretentious resident, Felicity Parham, is next. Even on her best day, Felicity is a total Karen who treats everything and everyone around her as beneath her. I guess her son Billy is kind of the exception to that, which is nice, or at least it would be if she weren't passing her own elitist views down to him. But if that's Felicity at her best, you can imagine that her worst is pretty bad. In The Law, when Gumball starts to jaywalk in front of her, she literally has a full-on mental breakdown and uses it as an excuse to commit every crime she can think of in the next 11 minutes. Barely missing out on the bottom 5 is Richard's own father, Frankie Watterson. Granny JoJo might have been an awful mother, but at least she was trying. No, scratch that. At least she was there. Frankie, on the other hand, abandoned his son at a pivotal age so he could live a life of conning people out of as much money as possible. Even when he feels some remorse for it later on, he still abuses his son's desire for a connection with him to try and scam him even more, from trying to trick the family into signing over the deed to their house to mooching off of them however he can. The best we could say about Frankie is that he's at least adjacent to remorseful for his actions, but he never truly makes an effort to change for the better, using his family as more of a safety net with very little hesitation. And if you were wondering if he'd redeemed himself by the new season, I respect your faith in humanity. Unfortunately, it was wrong. Our top 5 of evil begins with Harold Wilson, Tobias's father. While he's always been a fairly clear archetype for arrogant rich guy, Harold just needed one single episode to prove that he deserves a spot near the bottom of our list, or the top of the bad. Anyway, in the cycle, it's revealed that Harold is a longtime bully of Richard's, abusing him on a regular basis, even well into their adult years. This man has a wife, child, and mortgage, and he still prioritizes bullying his old high school classmate? That's sickening enough, but when Richard pranks him into thinking he's won the lottery, Harold doesn't even hesitate to divorce his wife and presumably abandon his son, marry a much younger woman, and still doesn't have any issue with bullying Richard. Guys like Harold have undoubtedly hurt a lot of people throughout their lives lives, and frankly, he's only saved from a lower spot by the fact that the remaining characters are simply worse. Sal Left Thumb took home our Bronze Medal of Evil last time around, and believe us, he isn't higher because of any redemption arcs. When a career in music didn't quite pan out, he decided the next best thing was resorting to a life of crime. Why did he decide this, you may ask? Good question. Just know that old Fingerprint Guy is a shady character who almost never shows up in any context that isn't an attempt to rob somebody. He's got plenty of bad qualities and surprisingly nothing in the way of sympathetic moments, which for a character in Gumball is actually pretty rare. In fourth place, we have one of the new characters, kinda. Richard's gut is brought to life by Anais's invention in the episode The Gut. Basically, his gut goes from a jerk trying to sabotage Richard's relationship with his daughter to a full-on supervillain who essentially absorbed her father's life force and takes over his body entirely. This isn't out of some twisted love for Anais either. The Gut just wanted to make more powerful inventions with Anais and was just about ready to kill her and her brothers before Anais pulled out the infamous 5-second rule that Richard can't seem to resist, even when he's literally all but dead. The Bronze Medal of Evil goes to Mrs. Robinson, and I'm sure the only thing you need me to explain here is how in the what she managed to avoid our most coveted ranking of evil. She's as bitter and hateful as Mr. Robinson with the added bonus of being a full-on sadistic psychopath. Whether it's something as tame but still creepy as growing flowers just to cut them down, or something as truly unforgivable as allowing a child to choke to death in front of her, there is absolutely nothing good we can say about Mrs. Robinson. But, well, here's the thing. In The Wicked, where the bulk of her evil is revealed, we see that Mrs. Robinson truly has no redeeming qualities, which raises the question, is she even capable of doing good? To truly call somebody the most evil, they have to be a little more calculating, surely. Okay, fine, I just didn't want to be too predictable. Last time around, we gave the Gold Medal of Evil to Mr. Chanix. But we have changed our tune on where he belongs on this list. We haven't changed our opinion on how evil he is. His bread and butter is driving his employees absolutely insane by enslaving them with his contracts. He uses a mix of intimidation, brainwashing, incentivizing, and psychological manipulation to keep his employees working long hours for low pay. He might only have the one major appearance in The Boss, but it was more than enough for us to conclude that this guy is the antithesis of everything a show like Gumball stands for. Fun, individuality, basic human rights, none of that's important to a guy like Mr. Chanix, and as a result, he stands as a perfect foil to the social issues this show manages to satirize surprisingly well. But the season premiere shows a character similar to Mr. Chanix, but with an even more personal bite to his evil. We're giving the Gold Medal of Evil, and quite frankly obvious Greed Sinner Medal, to the CEO of Joyful Burger and all the food in Elmore, Mr. Bilderberger. But first, this video is brought to you by WickedBinge channel memberships. You can gain access to our videos early before anyone else, plus gain access to members-only emojis and loyalty badges by supporting the channel through a membership. He may look like a burger with googly eyes, and that's because he is, but being a burger with googly eyes doesn't stop Mr. Bilderberger from being the most heinous villain in Gumball yet. By his own admission, Mr. Bilderberger is motivated by money, and money alone. He knows full well that his greed has caused the deaths of countless people, men, women, children, numerous species, this is Gumball we're talking about after all, and have all perished under his tyrannical reign on nutrition. This guy makes it all but impossible to eat healthy food in Elmore, and fully admits that he's inherently evil, but the guy just straight up doesn't care. Heck, the only reason he even explains himself to Gumball and Darwin is because he thinks their bone marrow could potentially be valuable. I don't even know what that means. This guy is so evil that he's somehow one of the most unreasonable characters in a series that has walking goldfish, talking peanuts, and sentient donut police officers. Being so evil, so aware of it, and so proud of it, it's a surefire way to earn our Gold Medal of Evil, and we can't wait to see how, if at all, future episodes try to top this guy.